Good morning. It is 9:44 a.m. on Sunday, February 11th, 2018. I'm Christiana Ellis, and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. Um, as I was saying good morning just then, it suddenly reminded me of a Twitter account called Thoughts of Dog that always says "Goob Morning" with a B, and that just makes me happy. Um, Okay, today is Sunday, which means I'm continuing my rewatch of Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex. This is episode 14, Automated Capitalism, Yen, Euros, Dollars. And the yen, euros, dollars is reflected just by the little symbol for them. This is another standalone episode, although the stinger at the end, contains a little bit of a nod back towards the Laughing Man case. But this episode mostly is another filler. To the extent that it contributes to any ongoing plot lines, it's really only the fact of the Tachikomas displaying increasingly unpredictable behavior concerning the Major. Rather, she is concerned by it as opposed to their behavior concerns the Major. Has to do with the Major. It's more, she is concerned by their erratic behavior. But the basic plot is that we have an incident. It's basically just a little action sequence where the Section 9 comes in and takes out like a little gang of Chinese thieves that I guess are going to rob a bank or something. It was actually a little bit unclear. But they basically come in, they get to be badass. It's funny that Major gets thrown through a window into some garbage by this big android that they have. This episode relies pretty heavy on having someone look normal and then sort of expand out and have all sorts of weird android cyber features. I guess they're not cybernetic if it's actually a full android, it's just robotic. But we have, the maids later, as well as this guy at this little restaurant that they break in. And they take it out, and it's basically just a little action sequence for its own sake. But then we've also gotten set up this woman who's coming into Japan and declares herself an enemy of capitalism. And we see her preparing, and she's got like a really elaborate sort of gun hidden into her arm. So Section 9 hears that there's possibly going to be an assassination attempt of this guy who is one of the huge movers and shakers in the financial industry, makes a ton of money, and they believe that the Chinese are going to try to assassinate him, or at least that this one assassin is. There's a lot of subtext through the episode about capitalism and the idea that having it completely unrestrained leads to these situations. Well, I'll go ahead and just finish the plot synopsis, which is that the Section 9 arrives to try to protect this guy, realizes that the assassin is already on the grounds. Bato has a weird little subplot with some robot dogs that kind of doesn't go anywhere. And the Major and one of the Tachikomas go in. They arrive basically just in time to apprehend the assassin, but together they all collectively realize that this guy's already been dead for months, and apparently nobody realized he was dead because he was a notorious recluse anyway, and he had set up these automated AI behaviors to continue amassing money, and he had literally created this scenario where they were filling this bedroom with just gold bars. And I think, there's some interesting subtext there that the episode really, other than just the imagery itself, doesn't go too heavy into, but just the idea of, a pure capitalism situation where he's able to just amass as much money as he wants can lead to this situation where he's amassing this huge amount of wealth that is literally just going to sit in a bedroom around a dead guy. And so, is that Is that okay? The episode doesn't take a position, but it certainly creates an extreme scenario there that I think in and of itself kind of takes a little bit of a position. But that said, the opposing position that this guy should be assassinated for behaving like that is, probably not what the episode would claim either. So, like many Ghost in the Shell episodes, it kind of presents, an ambiguous scenario and leaves you to decide on your own how you feel about it. I certainly, we can talk about the evils of capitalism and that sort of thing, and I have mixed feelings about that because, on the one hand, I don't subscribe to the idea that all of capitalism should be smashed and burned and we should let anarchy or, total socialism reign. I don't believe that, but that said, the capitalist system as it exists now sure does have an awful lot of abuses, and so maybe a happy medium can be found in there somewhere. Anyway, that's all kind of subtext in the episode. And, there's some interesting stuff, like just with the maid androids that look all polite and docile until, of course, they determine that you're a trespasser, in which they expand out and have all sorts of guns on them and everything. The robot dogs are weird, just because they're obviously meant to look like weird robot Doberman pinchers, with strange little like serrated buzzsaw mouths and everything, and then they act like actual regular dogs that Bato is dealing with. But I don't know. I as much as I'm a dog lover and therefore they're kind of cute, the whole bit about like how much danger is he actually in from them, and also the rapidity of how it's all resolved, which is that apparently just as they're jumping up on him, he hacks into them and makes them see him as their owner so that they are nice to him, I guess. All of that felt like filler to me. In the meantime, the Chinese assassin's little secret gun in her arm, designed to fire 500 yen coins as ammo, is kind of cool, kind of fun, and you can imagine that being, poetic. But of course, we also have, I think, one, sort of the key moment of the episode in terms of the wider plot line of the series is when the Major has been infiltrating this house with the Tachikoma and almost gets killed, or almost at least shot, by one of these robot maids, and then is basically saying, Tachikoma was supposed to protect me from that sort of thing. Why didn't it? And realizes, on its own initiative, it decided to just basically hack into the brain of one of the robots downstairs, leaving the Major alone as she continued through the house, and so it was basically not doing the one thing that it was supposed to be doing on that mission, and in fact complained when she yelled at it, just like, you're supposed to be my shield, and it's like, I don't think of myself that way. And so it's left kind of subtle in the episode because we only kind of get a little bit of the Major talking to Ishikawa about this, but the idea is that, like, first of all, we know that the one had, snuck off the base on its own in a previous episode, and now, even on missions, they're not following orders, and they're expressing preferences to have some kinds of orders over different kinds of orders. And and what the Major's concern is, as she talks to Ishikawa, is that apparently there's no actual way to, like, punish them. Like, what are you going to do to them? They don't seem to have any sort of a negative reinforcement element. They're not programmed to respond to people yelling at them as a means of changing their behavior. And so that's concerning. And it actually leads into next time, the next episode is called The Time of the Machines Desirantes. And that's going to be, I think, this whole little subplot of the Tachikomas developing their individuality and bring that to a head a little bit. And so the only other, like, the only other little detail in there is at the very end of the episode, we see Togusa come home and go to, talk to his wife, and she talks about how she's been day trading because all the good housewives spend their time day trading, apparently. It's a weird line. But anyway, once they leave the room, we see their computer turn back on by itself and buy a whole bunch of shares of Serrano Genomics stock and then turn itself back off again. So that's ominous, obviously. We don't get very much of the ramifications or understand exactly what's happening. In this episode, obviously someone is hacking Togusa's computer, but Serrano Genomics, you may recall, is the corporation that was right at the center of the original Laughing Man incident and has been involved since then, what with the police interceptors and all of that sort of thing. So the whole Laughing Man case is definitely revolves around Serrano Genomics. And so the idea that someone's hacking into Togusa's computer and making it buy Serrano Genomics stock, that seems weird, right? So we'll have to see how that plays out, as well as how the Tachikoma storyline plays out next time, which will be next Sunday as I continue the rewatch. And in the meantime, I'll talk to you tomorrow for 5 more minutes.